As we wrap up the conversation about the shadow, about the reptilian brain, about what's currently portrayed as toxic masculinity, at the judgment and confrontation of anger, of hate, of despair, etc., of the lower side of the circle. The first thing that I want to do is start with a metaphor that we witnessed in our 30s in some of the Thai temples, such as Wat Narun in Bangkok. And what you'll find is this pyramidal shape where the whole lower ring is composed of half human, half animal warriors and warrioresses, right? And they are lifting and holding up the temple. Now at the top, you have the ideal, you have the abstraction, you have the geometric spire. The energy to formulate and refine and create that spire is coming from the animal. It's not coming from the deity. And one of the areas that I have been repeatedly broken as an identity, as a pattern of thinking, feeling, speaking, doing, and being that I attach to, are the more sensitive, the more feminine, the more idealistic ideas that collapse under terror, under grief, under uncertainty, and a lack of aggression, a lack of force and protection. Because in my cult, the skewed version of spirituality, evolution, a good man, leaned towards the idealistic without the willingness to fight, without the willingness to confront, without the ability and willingness to win in competition. In other words, bypassing the reptilian brain and its operating system entirely. And what I find with chronic fatigue, with anxiety, with shame, with helplessness, and an ensuing hate, this was the surprise that I discovered a few years ago, that without any positive sense of, I want this and I'm going to go for it, and that aggression, that desire, that energy is good, that without that being in the current cultural mythology and spiritual mythology, that I had ideas and a complete dissociation, shame, and terror in my body about making them happen, and that I would tentatively put them forward to other people and find them hit walls or fall on deaf ears and feel grief and feel small and feel shame. Repeated grief, small, and shame regresses to helplessness. Helplessness and shame regress to hurt, which regress to anger, which, when unexpressed, deteriorates into hate, into malice, and into revenge. If you look at the composition of hate, it has a couple of attachments. One of them is powerlessness. That ties in with helpless. This leads to justification of resentment, jealousy, envy. Other people have something I cannot have. A sense of I can't do anything and I hate the person who can. So if you delete the powerlessness, you don't have the helpless. And if you are powerful, if you can do what you want to do and find beautiful and good in the world, there's no reason to hate. It is essential. The other vector of hate is pain, right? Pain, an enormous gap between what we desire and the way things are. Pain, a separation from and longing for, right? You long to behold when your arm is separated, you feel pain. You long to be with someone, to be one with someone when they love someone else and dissociate, pain. You long for an idea that you find beautiful, and when everyone tramples that idea and goes a different way, pain, right? It is the conjunction of pain and powerless that produces hate, right? Now, if you will work on power, which is the ability to act, even if there is pain, if there's power and pain, then the pain guides the power. I feel pain, I feel separate, and I'm powerful, so I'm going to narrow the gap between what I long for and what is, right? So pain and power equals dynamic motivation. Pain and powerlessness equals hate. Pain is a given. There will be pain in the world, right? In all of my explorations of history, in my explorations of biographies, of wealth, pain, wealth, accomplishment, beauty, fame, there is massive amounts of pain, and it's often invisible, meaning your idols, your heroes, their pain is less visible than people at the bottom of the cult rank, right? Because everyone assumes that people at the bottom of the cult's rank system are in pain, because everyone assumes that any cult member would want to climb the ladders they're associated with. But the people at the top of the cult ranking system have unique forms of pain that less than 1% of the population understands, which creates a unique form of invisibility, which creates a unique form of loneliness. You are alone and unloved when no one can understand you, right? And the higher you are in the cult's rank system, the less people are able to understand and thus empathize. So I would say that if I analyze the weaknesses of our pattern, the internalized spiritual critic at a young age, I would say that the weakness comes in a variety of areas that all cluster in this one area. One, a lack of aggression. You have refused to fight almost everyone your entire life. You have withdrawn. And there will come a time, as there came in my life, where you withdraw and withdraw and withdraw, and you're in massive amounts of pain with nowhere to go. And that's a difficult point to learn the value of aggression and to fight, and yet it is essential. You must learn how to fight, to hold a boundary, to fight for what is right in your eyes, and to see the aliveness of what you find beautiful, true, and good, that is healthy, that is an immune system against fatalism, against despair, against resentment, against envy, against helplessness, hostility, and hate. The most powerful person in the world who can create at will the emotional state that they desire, the physical experiences they desire, and the mental experiences they desire is in joy and happiness. There's no basis for hate, right? So hate exists only when there's a strong sense of powerlessness. Now, in our experience, let alone all the edge cases in the world, in our experiences, the thing that has most stopped us from claiming power is us, right? I turned away from money and kept myself close to the edge for most of my life. That is a choice. Why? Well, we started out making $7 an hour at age 17 and brought that up to $200 an hour without ever having savings, right? It's not an earning problem. It's a spending issue, right? You can keep yourself weak financially if as soon as you make money, you spend more than you have and then dilute with interest, etc., and buy depreciating assets. We kept ourselves poor, and it was hell to become a little bit wealthier. Meaning I went through 3 months of hell to break my addiction to adrenaline and being on the edge, right, putting myself in the power of the world and actually being willing to save $10,000 and be debt-free, right? I mean, that's not very much, but that took like a Herculean. There was such strong desire to be on the edge and be poor. Right? So that's us. Right? No one is doing that. No one did that to us. I chose to be poor and resent the choices of the wealthy. What a dumb thing. They just remodeled their house for another $500,000. Why didn't they help this or do that or focus on their marriage? Right? But I wasn't spending $500,000 on a marriage or helping people. I was staying poor, right? So it has been important in transforming hate, resentment, jealousy, revenge to create wealth. And I encourage you to do it sooner and to take on the willingness and ability to be financially powerful because, let's face it, you've always known that if you put your mind to it, you could grow a company, run a company, make lots of money. You've always known that because you have that aptitude, but you've turned away from it. Right? that is not spiritual. Because it's just saying, let other people have the power, rather than, if I believe money should be spent this way, then make a lot of money and spend it this way. So that is a regret. My constant physiological tendency to be small, to be of a young emotional age, and to try and be invisible rather than be powerful, that's one thing. The withdrawing from conflicts and relationships that have conflict, that leaves me disempowered for my third need of love and belonging, right? Rather than work through things, okay, you want that, I want this, let's say goodbye, and I'll leave you to go and pursue that, right? So that again has withdrawn until I've been isolated, right? Years without a single solid good friend. Now, I know that isn't that uncommon in our cult, right? Friendships are deteriorating. And what we call a friendship is a very high quality of friendship that exceeds what most people consider a decent marriage. Nevertheless, that does not lead ultimately to a good option. In other words, I don't like that, I'm withdrawing. I don't like that, I'm withdrawing. We've withdrawn from 90% of all the relationships and people that were attracted and wanted to relate to us for a variety of reasons. High standards, time commitment, not wanting to deal with aggression, not wanting to get into fights. Nevertheless, that leaves and has left us socially powerless, with less power and less influence. And so rather than trading one relationship for another and going up, we kind of grew relationships to a pinnacle. Maybe that by around age 33, we'd had the best relationships that we'd had, maybe 33, 34. And then when relationships refused to get better, we just became more impatient and withdrew to a point where I've been incredibly isolated over the past 7 years, right? And I'm recovering from that systemic withdrawal by being more patient, more understanding of other people and, the many reasons they're doing what they're doing. As opposed to fighting through. Now, interestingly, I'm now married, and the marriage involves a tremendous amount of conflict. Right? My wife has broken hundreds of agreements, and typically I would, just do my normal thing of, okay, you obviously don't want to keep your agreements. Blessings, off you go, right? But I've seen where that leads, right? And so instead, I've moved into the fighting role of saying, hey, you're not keeping this agreement, there's going to be consequences. I don't want to pay the consequence. Well, there's going to be consequences. You don't want to keep your agreements. Right? So what's the result? My wife has grown up a bit, right? We'll do another topic on adulthood and how rare it is, but my wife has grown up a little bit. I'm not completely isolated. I've had to grow and grow into my aggression. Like, there's a whole part of me that says, I don't want to point out that she did another dumb thing that she said she was going to stop doing. I don't want to deal with that. I don't want mom to punish me. I don't want to deal with it. You did another dumb thing again and again and again. And this is the consequence. Right? So withdrawing from conflict, withdrawing from power, withdrawing from visibility, right? I've gone to groups where I've been very popular. It's freaked me out, and I've left the groups because I had too much attention, and that ties into a shame dynamic, right? Withdrawing because I'm being praised too much, and there's a sense of I'm not going to be able to live up to it. They're going to find something out. I don't want to have to live up to other people's expectation based on the great things they've experienced so far. What if they expect more, right? So I've withdrawn due to poor behavior, but I've also had a fair number of smart, highly intelligent people strongly attracted to me in a group context. And I just feel so uncomfortable I don't attend the group until that dissipates, and then I'm isolated again, right? So social powerlessness is having no connection and no influence. Financial powerlessness is, high debts and no spending capacity. We've also chosen to keep the business small, and in more recent years, travel as much as possible, make money, spend money again, so it doesn't accumulate. Then there's physical vitality and health, right? For most of our life, since age 22 when we developed chronic fatigue, that took 60% of our energy. Then there's crimping and clamping of my energy psychologically and physiologically, like clamping my thighs, clamping my calves, so that clamping the energy so it doesn't come through. Right? That takes down 20, 30% of my vitality. Then there's also judgment of aggression, right? And then there's also a tightening rather than be aggressive or critical and just say, hey, that's fucked up, stop doing that. And putting an end to it, tightening and trying to, with my face communicate that that's wrong what they're doing, the way they're bullying and doing this and that, but not actually standing up to it, right? So there's a tightness there of criticism and judgment, and then judging myself for criticism and judgment, right? So this is all in that pattern of not asserting and going for what I want and becoming increasingly frightened that the world will not go the way that I find beautiful and true, because I am unwilling to see that that happens socially, financially, politically, in groups, or physically, right? The avoidance of all physical conflict, but also sleep routines, diet that weaken my body, right? So a good percentage of the foods that I eat weaken me rather than strengthen me. And then failing to engage and stay strong, not going to the gym and not doing as much work. Since age 25, I've done less and less physical work and felt more and more tired. Right? But I want you to understand that's a choice, because the more exercise you do, the more energy you have. Right? If you'll just run a block, then run 2 blocks, then run 3 blocks, pretty soon you'll be energized to run, 10 blocks. And you can run a marathon. But our energy is to move less and less in the body and be more and more clamped up. This all comes from early childhood trauma, right? Infantile trauma of being violently attacked, shamed, hated, dissociated from both Sherilyn and Michael, mom and dad, and attacking anything aggressive and assertive. The healthy assertion of I exist and I want to be here has been punched down. And there's this sense that it's unlovable, it's unforgivable to exist, to be alive, to be aggressive. And I have a tremendous amount of grief, sadness, overwhelm in this territory of general memories. And I don't want to feel that either. And so I retreat out of my body rather than going through that pain and that grief and reclaiming the healthy force, the healthy life force, the healthy aggression, the healthy creativity, the assertiveness of the masculine pole. Now, we are moving into a culture in my day at 28 where all masculinity, particularly in men, is under attack. There is hostility, hatred, resentment, because women do the same thing, right? For some of the same reasons, right? Traumatized women, particularly traumatized by men, their father, their brothers, etc., learn that their masculine energy frightens the power structure, and so they become weak and small and come to hate and resent men, even though as grown-ups, it's very important to understand, not adults, but as grown-ups, right? No one's making me do this. Like, I could go for a run, for an hour a day and regain 30% of my vitality and energy that way. I can engage and create more friendships, engage more of my influence that way, and engage more in the world. And I can systematically save money, and I can systematically learn skills, and I can create accomplishments and achievements and awards and build power. Now, you and I have always had a tremendous sense of idealism, a beautiful vision of truth and goodness and good design, right? And a complete unwillingness to engage in any assertive way with other people. That assertive energy is good, is needed, allows your gifts to come into the world. And one of the biggest questions that I'm wrestling with at this point in my life is how to deal with the infantile fear and terror that I will be killed for expressing that energy, which is what I feel in my body, right? My body tightens and expects to be killed when I freely express assertiveness, dynamic energy, outward confrontation, aggression, play, because play is the other area, right? You have experienced so much fear in other people as you've been playful. That's been traumatizing for you and terrifying as a regressed little boy. And so seeing other people's terror and discomfort with the unknown, with being out of control in your play, I cut that play way, way, way down to try and create a safe space where nobody would mind. And I've never been able to find that guarantee that nobody is going to be offended, that nobody minds. And so I am holding 20 to 30% of my playful energy in check for fear that someone might not understand it, rather than counting on myself to help them understand it, or, just, okay, fine, you're not an adult, you don't know how to play, off you go. I'm going to keep playing. right? So that is a good direction to aim for. So as I look at my vision for, I would say, coming back into more life, because I've been killing myself systematically. I've been suffocating my energy systematically in order to please and avoid fearing the projected, terrified, narcissistic parent, based on deep body memories that have nothing to do with a good objective rationale, but that are added to constantly by the slamming that's going on towards masculine energy at my point in history. I've also generally sympathized and empathized with my own femininity more than my masculinity, though I have achieved thousands of goals, focused on learning, etc. It's that energy of excitement and aliveness and making it happen that I've pulled back. So I'm looking at moving, with all of those. So a list of things that could be a good antidote for this diagnosis, this kind of imbalance, is moving towards martial art, moving towards physical activity, moving towards leadership, earning and investing more money, confronting and calling people to account, to live up to agreements rather than just withdraw when they don't, and enjoying other masculine men, which have not been a part of my life, in part because of my own discomfort with that masculine energy.